Do we have a count on attendance?
At least 15.
Okay, cool.
Nice.
Nice.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining. If you can turn on your videos so we can see your faces, if you're in a position to do so. Calling in from all over the US tonight.
Hey, everybody. We're so happy you're here. Thank you for coming. Isabella, how's the weather?
Not as cold as it's supposed to.
A little reprieve. It's been pretty crazy weather here, so Santa Barbara snow has us all excited.
I know, it's crazy. I'm seeing these videos. I'm like, what's going on? So sad. Global warming.
I know.
What? Crazy.
All right.
Katsamani, I drove up to the snow this weekend. I'll show pictures later, but it was like people were snowboarding. We took boogie boards and went down the side of the mountain. It's hard to believe in our town. It's wild.
Let's see who else is here. Christine, how are things with you? I see you probably the most often out of everyone.
Good. We got snow a little bit yesterday, but it melted already.
Oh, wow. Looks like a few more are joining, and then we can just go ahead and I say we just go ahead and get started. We have a good turnout tonight, so thank you for taking time out of your busy days. What's today? Wednesday? Is it? Yeah, Wednesday to join us for a super important topic. But yeah, I'll keep an eye on the students who join, but I say we just jump in and get started.
Oh, that's me.
No, not quite. Let's see. I'll show the deck really. Thank you. I appreciate that. Let's get the deck up here first, and then you are up. So give me 1 second to share my screen. Okay. And I will press play. Can everyone see it okay if I do that?
Yes, looks good.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, cool. All right, so we'll start with a quick agenda, and then I'm going to hand it off to our awesome presenters, Colleen and Monica, who have put together this workshop, which really lends to their amazing professional background that I will let them tell you about. Then Bella's going to tell you a little bit about her internship experience. We'll do some breakout rooms. We really want to have this be a more hands-on session. So I'm going to break us out into sections, and each of you will get a chance to work with either me, Colleen, Katie, or Monica. Then I'm going to talk you through an email template, which for those of you who were in the program last year might look familiar, but I think it's a really good refresher to know like how to reach out to these people and the more tangible elements of what it means to connect with people in the workplace. And then we'll do a section on interview skill development and what employers are looking for. And then at the end, we'll have time for some action items to maybe do a mock interview with your college coach. It could be an option one, or how to send out a few of these emails, and we'll put some actions to what we've learned today. And then we've also received a lot of your questions, which we're really glad you guys sent questions, and we want to make sure that we address all of those. So without further ado, I will let Monica and Colleen introduce themselves.
Yeah, thanks, Paige. Hello, everyone. I'm Monica. I am born and raised in Santa Barbara, but now live in San Diego. I think I've met some of you in the past. I currently work for Box, so not to be confused with Dropbox, Box. So our cloud content management platform. And I'm a technical recruiter, but currently working a little bit more on the operations side within engineering. So have a lot of insight into recruiting various roles on the technical side as well. So super happy to be here. And I used to work with Colleen at our past company. So I'll let you introduce yourself.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Colleen. I live in Santa Barbara. I grew up in Northern California, though, in Davis, and I came down here for school. So I went to UCSB and then landed at some local tech companies. So I worked at Sonos and then with Procore with Monica, and most recently moved to an all remote company. So get the pleasure of working in my pajamas every day for a company called Vercel. It's a super small tech startup that basically probably if we have some engineering majors, we built Next.js, which is a front end framework, and we package and sell it to like all big companies. So like Netflix, Uber, Facebook, all of them use our software. My background, similar to Monica, is in the recruiting space. So helping our companies hire. And then in my most recent role, it is a bit more around human resources and people strategy and programs. But again, we both have pretty heavy backgrounds in hiring and intern hiring and all of that. So here to be a resource for all of you.
All right, so hi, I'm Bella. I go to the University of San Diego. I probably met some of you, but nice to see you guys again. And I'm studying marketing. I just wanted to touch base with you guys about the importance of getting an internship. This last summer, I was working with Electronic Arts and their content strategy division, where I worked on developing a case study to analyze the TikTok platform and finding out what content is successful and what content is not. Great thing about this internship is that my material that I developed and that I put together, I presented to key stakeholders where they actually took that information and then put it into play, which was really cool to see. Actually, Mission Scholars and Chris Bruzzo introduced me to EA and also applying to this internship. So big thanks to them. I wouldn't be here without them. But the reason why I'm presenting here today is because I want to talk about its importance of getting an internship, especially on a regular basis when we have breaks during school. Not only because it's a great resume builder, but because you can try such new things that you never thought you would be able to be exposed to. A lot of my internship was really interactive, although it was remote. I got to meet a bunch of people across the world and get their insight on where they're coming from, and also make those connections that hopefully will last the rest of my life. I also got to like practice my communication with my manager, and I didn't realize how like out of practice I was with that. So getting more practice and like having an open dialogue with my supervisor was so crucial and such a great like stepping stone for me that I really didn't think about until recently. Another great thing about internship is that you can really understand like what you like and what you don't like. So for instance, this last summer I was with the content strategy division, but for this upcoming summer, I'm moving departments to the consumer insights division. And I'm basically doing that because I want to know what else is out there, and that's what internships are exactly built for. They're built for like exploring new sides of yourself that you never thought you would be interested in. And also touching on that, Electronic Arts is a gaming company for those who don't know, and I am not a gamer. I never thought I'd be involved in this industry, but being a part of it, I am able to like offer my objective viewpoint on certain things, but also gain a lot of benefits out of it and learning a completely different industry, which is really cool.
Thanks so much, Bella, for sharing your story. I just want to ask, what was like one of your highlights of your summer as an intern? What was something you were really proud of, or a crowning moment?
So the internship is kind of built like you have one project that you're assigned from your supervisor, and at the very end you present it to like any employee in EA. So it's like an internship fair, and I had to present like my whole like project to everybody who came into my booth remotely over Zoom, and that was so cool to have like different conversations with people. I met with people talking about who had previous like experience with analyzing TikTok, but also people who with opposing viewpoints. So we really had an open dialogue. But honestly, just presenting my work to people who cared was really cool, and like people who asked engaging questions, and also furthering those relationships by like emailing and updating with them like where I was with my work was really pivoting.
Awesome. Thank you, Bella. And fun fact, Bella is currently interning in a paid internship for Mission Scholars. So many of our, in the marketing department, so many of our social media posts and student highlights have been curated by her and her knowledge she's learned from USD in her classes in college, but also from her internship at EA too. Thank you.
I have a quick question for you too, Bella. Just as we're about to go into search strategies, I think Colleen will cover next, but do you remember what your interview process was like, or, what, the stages, like maybe some just general high level questions. It might have
Yeah.
been a little bit ago, but it might be good to just give an example.
Yeah, I remember it exactly because my internet broke out. So I
Oh,
remember
no.
very clearly. Yeah, so I sent in my application, my resume, and also answered a few questions to like their general application. Then I met with the marketing, like in the marketing division, my future supervisor, and he asked me really like I've never had questions like that in that like way before or staged in that way. They're really complex, everything like intertwined with one another. I don't remember specific questions, but I remember took me a lot of thinking, and also because I didn't have any prior experience or legit prior experience in marketing, I had to be really creative with my answers and just based on like what my like prior experience was and work with that. So that was a huge challenge for me. I remember that. But always for interviews, like if it's remote, like get there early. But even if it's remote, getting there early, and also making sure your Wi-Fi is working, because my Wi-Fi was not working, and that I did not like it. He totally understood, because I don't know why I had poor Wi-Fi that day, but yeah, making sure those are good to go.
Cool. Thanks.
All right, and then I've got a couple other things on here. I just want to shout out to some of our awesome students that have gotten really amazing internships in the past and are currently looking for amazing internships and interviewing. Like I know Christian has been working his tail off to find the perfect internship. So if you need advice from one of your senior peers, like Christian, I know has been working really hard on finding a great internship for this summer. We've got Kathy heading to GM, which is really amazing. She'll be working on their manufacturing processes in the Midwest. She's going to get to go in person, full internship experience as an engineer. We've had students working for Salvation Army here in Santa Barbara, and then you'll see a picture of me with my mentee, Yvette, when we found her 2 internships for this summer. So she not only had a job at Camp K9, but also got to work as a vet tech at VCA, which especially with her limited experience, that's really great. And then we have another student heading to Medtronic for a paid internship in Tempe, Arizona. So like Bella said, I think it's really important to kind of explore your options. And just because it's like, oh, I have to work at this kind of company, you could end up anywhere doing really cool things. And we've got students, the list goes on past this. So keep reaching out to us if you want help on not only finding, but securing that awesome internship.
Paige, that's a great segue. I think kind of what we want to cover here is just talking about your internship search. I think everyone on this call is probably at a different stage in their journey of where they are, if they're actively interviewing, have started thinking about it, maybe haven't started to thinking about it. So we wanted to kind of take it back to like at the very first stages of, if you're not sure where to start, these are some good questions to run through and just kind of get your mind thinking about what you might be interested in. So there's part of it, like if you have a general interest, but not sure about the specific opportunity, like just start thinking through, like, what type of work do you think you might be interested? What do you see yourself doing? Think about like, also Bella walked through, you'll learn a lot about what you don't like. What do you like? What do you don't like? And we'll kind of jump to the next slide to talk a little bit more through that. Or are there certain companies that have jumped out to you, or certain types of organizations that you're interested in? Is it tech companies? Is it like your background? I know I'm a college coach, and the student I work with is super interested in PT work. So we're talking through like, what does that look like in terms of an internship of working in an office, for instance? So there's a whole range of stuff. And then when you get to that stage, start thinking through like, actually, we can jump to the next slide. Yeah, so when we get to those stages, you can start thinking through like your network and stuff. But again, like just to take a step back around your internship search and where to start, these are, again, another series of questions you can think through around, for if you want to start with your major, like look for internships directly related to your classes or major. Like if you're something in finance, is there internships within certain companies, like the Big Four of Deloitte or something that might be more related to that? Are there other adjacent fields that you are passionate about? Are there just general interests that you're thinking about too that you may want to try out? And then really start to like lean on your connections. I think some of the stuff is just having those initial conversations, and start thinking about like in these general, if it's related to your major or your general interest area, is these things going to be the right fit or not? An example is I was got a call from one of the Mission Scholar students a couple weeks ago, and she's like, hey, I've kind of jumped between what I'm interested in. If it's finance, is it this, is it that? I also know that you worked at Sonos, like, and I think it'd be so cool to work for a music company. And just having those conversations and like reaching out to your network, I think really helps to uncover like, okay, do I want something related to my major, or do I want something that's related to like my passion for music? How do I think about like, is this going to be the right path for me? I think one of the biggest takeaways as we go through this presentation is really leaning on your connections and your networks of where to start. I think we're all here as resources just to have those discovery conversations too.
Yeah, and if I could just add to what you said, I think just being really open. I know, like for me, I don't know if anyone else was feeling this way. I felt like I was a business major. I have to get an internship like directly related to my major, and nothing else is going to be valuable. But I think just being open to a variety of different internships, whether it's a paid internship where you're, building a project and presenting, or if it's even just kind of like a shadowing, just being able to come into an office and seeing what office life is like and kind of what a typical day is super valuable, because it might be different than what you think. It was a little different for me, from what just I had thought in my head. So I think just, everything and anything is good to be open to. If you don't have kind of, exactly what you want to do, it's just good to see what's out there. Again, what Colleen was saying, see who you have in your network, who you have within Mission Scholars, like upperclassmen. What are your peers doing? Maybe they have a cool connection of something you never thought you would be doing, but just keep an open mind as you kind of come into this season here.
All right, should we head to the next slide? Anything else on here we want to cover?
Yeah, I think even this covers a lot what we just talked about too. Again, kind of reiterating the points around where to start in your search in terms of your network, and even like tactically, if you want to get tapped into the Mission Scholars Network, you can just email Paige as well too. I think if you're in, year 1 and 2 in college, some of like the more remote internships or some of the bigger companies sometimes usually geared towards looking at upperclassmen, because those are people that likely then they could hire eventually. So you might be looking for something if you're in your kind of first or second year, looking at something that might be on a smaller scale, something more local, something that's just a paid job opportunity and something that you're interested in. So I think just be mindful of like as if you're looking at bigger companies, just think about that it might be a bit tougher if you are at kind of your year 1 or 2 mark too. And we can kind of help walk you through that. And I think if anything, as we think about things like transferable experience, again, kind of like going back to Monica's point of being really open to stuff, is that like, while you can narrow in on like maybe some skills that you want to gain during your internship, if it's super specific, but I think regardless of what opportunity you have, I think you're always going to pick up on things like business acumen, how to be in an office, how to send a really good email, how to use Excel. I think you're going to gain so much of that transferable experience no matter what you do. And then in terms of diving more into like tactical pieces, we wanted to give you all some resources around online search platforms that we've seen. I think some of you are probably already on there if you're on your search, but one of the biggest ones is Handshake. And it's a whole network. It's basically kind of like a Facebook type app, LinkedIn, of the very like LinkedIn specific app for college students and internships.
Colleen, I'm gonna interrupt you for a second. Can everyone write in the chat if they are linked to their Handshake for their school already, or else like raise your hand? I want to make sure everyone has access to Handshake. And then if you don't, maybe write in the chat that you need a little more information about it. Can we get like some thumbs up? Because that's a really important one. All right, seeing lots of thumbs. Okay, cool. Great.
Yeah. Nice. And then when kind of digging around in there, we did find like there's a lot of resources available in Handshake. We linked in something here about attending career fairs, and these are virtual events, which is a great way just to get exposure to all the different companies and actually start building that initial connection with people. So I think Monica shared a story about how we were talking with a friend. He does intern hiring at his company, and he said one of the best ways he's been able to connect with interns and find interns is through virtual events. So if you get to that stage where you're interested in a company, I highly suggest looking at that to be able to get in front of the recruiting team and the team directly. Just because if you're applying into a company, you might be one of many, many resumes. And so doing everything to get in front of that is a great way to start too. And then in terms of other ones we listed out here, and if you're starting to search online, there's LinkedIn, Glassdoor, Way Up, Ripple Match, and Idealist is a great platform for the nonprofit sector. I think we've walked through, if you've been at many of these sessions before, we talked a lot about how to set up your LinkedIn profile, which we linked resources here. And then on things like LinkedIn and on Handshake, when you're going through your search, make sure to do some advanced search settings. You can search directly for internships, and you can look at what the most recently posted date just to make sure it's an up-to-date post. And then you can also, for a lot of these platforms, set up email alerts. So when that company posts an internship, you can get an alert directly to your email that job went up too. So those are just some reminders on some best practices.
I want to pause here. We are going to do breakout sessions soon, but what questions do you guys have? I know we got some great questions on the survey. Do you have any questions specifically to looking for an internship or anything you've struggled with in the past that you want to share with the group and talk through now? Don't be shy. This is your time, and you've got experts here that want you to find an awesome job. So if you have questions about any of these platforms or anything you want to talk through as a group, feel free to share. And if you're still thinking, we can come back to them too after the breakout sessions. Okay, we'll come back to it.
Yeah, maybe we can share some good questions that we got in the breakouts when we come back so the rest of the group can hear them too.
I think, yeah, just before we jump into the breakouts, just to kind of like summarize all of that, I think, I don't know how many times we can bring home the point about connecting into your network. That's the way that I have found every job that I have had has been through personal connections and building relationships. And so if you're, at the stages, while things like LinkedIn and online searches and those platforms are great, to really make sure that you are kind of getting yourself in front of the pack and just kind of like being able to tap into broader set of opportunities. I would think about all the different things that you're connected to, from resources at career centers, your professors, your college coaches, any like affiliations that you're in, alumni, even talking to your peers about things that they have done. Bella sharing more about EA, like if you're interested in internship there, talking to her about it and just starting that conversation. So I wouldn't just limit yourself to one or two things. I would just start thinking about like your network as all these different inflection points too.
And I just want to add too, we've emphasized it before, but I want to reemphasize that Mission Scholars has a big presence in Santa Barbara now. And we have all these companies across industries that want to hire qualified, motivated students like yourselves who are home, in Santa Barbara for the summer or elsewhere as well for paid internships. And so in order to access that, you have to be the one that reaches out and follows up and keeps us posted on the connections that we make, and following up with that person that we connected you with. So it's really in your hands, but don't be shy or timid about, and if we don't have a connection, we'll help you find someone or maybe introduce you to someone. Maybe it doesn't lead to anything right away, but it might lead to another connection down the road. You never know. So it's a good practice because us, there's trust there, practice reaching out and what that looks like to an already existing network of people who are just ready to help you. You just have to be the one to unlock all of that.
Yeah, I totally agree. And that's a big part of my job now as a team member on Mission Scholars, is to be able to do that. So I had awesome coffee meetings with a lot of you over winter break. And we have really cool programs we're working on. I'm trying to build an internship program with Cottage Hospital in non-health related jobs. So if you're interested in finance or marketing, Cottage Hospital is one of the biggest employers in Santa Barbara. And, Monica and Colleen have connections all over Santa Barbara as well, from Procore to other great companies. So I totally agree with what Katie said, and we're here for you too. I did get one really good question in the chat, and she wanted to know, and it's a little bit more based on interviewing and later, but I think it's helpful for internship search as well. But what are the best things to add or incorporate into your resume to appeal for a job position or as a potential intern? For instance, what strengths should we highlight, or what could weaken your resume? So maybe before we jump into breakouts, Colleen and Monica, what are some of the things that stand out as a great positive on resumes? And then what are things that are some quick red flags?
I would say, yeah, I was gonna say from standout ones, any extracurriculars that you've done in school, highlighting a project that you've led at in a class or a side project is huge. I think when I was doing internship hiring, just looking at any sort of side project or anything that's shows that you are continuing to invest in yourself and learning and growing, and that you're highly motivated. I think any sort of all of your strong achievements, I think it really depends job to job. So it's hard to kind of provide blanket support. So I should also say that if you want to send us your resume to help you with it, absolutely do. I love doing that. I'm trying to think of some other things. I think also just visually pleasing, have it be super clean, organized, no errors. That's an immediate red flag. These things seem obvious, but you would be surprised how many even professionals our age still make mistakes like that. That's pretty bad. So yeah, I don't know, Monica, what else do you have to add?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. You're applying to an internship, make sure your resume is one page and it's clear and easy to read. It should never be overcrowded or be multiple pages, especially for early in career. Yeah, I think for early in career, it's highlighting your extracurriculars, any clubs you're a part of, maybe any extra classes. I'd say maybe adding books you read, or even I've seen people add leaders that they really like in their field and why they like them, little blurbs, just kind of shows you went the extra mile.
I would say even Mission Scott, being in this program and when we even things like that is super interesting to highlight too. Or
Yeah.
like strong courses that you're in that relate to like what you're applying to is great.
Yeah, exactly. I remember I was applying to like financial planning internships. So I'd like highlight all my finance classes I was taking that semester and talk about that in the interview and things like that. But the big kind of easy ones are like make sure everything's spelled right, make sure everything's linked correctly. Like Colleen said, there's so many that don't even have that. And when you're getting so many resumes, especially for internships, it's an easy no. It's just like other people have it. So it's an easy way to kind of get you out. So, and it's also an easy way for you to review. Like it's, it's not hard to have a clean format, to have, especially with mission scholars, like we're here to help you do that and to review it. So you do stand out within, within the crowd.
He might kill me, but I kind of want to put Larry on the spot a little bit. We worked on his resume over winter break, and he had, the skills section, for instance, like he had, soccer, or I think it was maybe sports. Larry, you can hop on and correct me if I'm misinterpreting it. But I was like, let's amp that up a little bit and show your personality. And he came back with the best skills line I'd seen in forever. It was like, Larry, you'll have to refresh my memory which team it is, because I know that's a big deal, but like, was it Real Madrid enthusiast? And that was that.
Yeah, it was that one.
Yeah, Real Madrid enthusiast, and then like Aussie hair curl product. Rather, because like Larry's hair is like one of the best, not one of the best, but I think it a like awesome feature about you. So like it just gave a little bit more like, oh, I understand who this person is now a little bit. Like they're showing a little bit of their personality, and not in an over the top way that's like, whatever, I don't know, Colleen and Monica, that would kind of be a red flag. But I think a little bit of your personality about like, oh, I am really into this soccer team. And like Larry, I don't know if he's in a spot where he can show his face on the video, so I won't make him do that. But Larry has great hair. Like that's another, yeah, there he is. Thanks, Larry. And so like, I thought that was just really fun and special. And like, I had like, for instance, on mine, 2nd degree black belt in Kempo karate. When you look at me initially, like that is not something you would probably guess that I spent my entire high school career doing, but I'd get people being like, are you serious? Like, is that real? And so it's just a good conversation starter too. So anyways, I want to jump into the breakout sessions and get time to ask specific questions about interview search or internship search and interviewing. But any other questions for the group as a whole before I start? Katie and I'll work together on doing breakout rooms. All right, Katie, how we wanted to do this. We weren't sure exactly how many students were going to show up. So we've got us 4 here, and then we've got about 15 students on right now. I think I counted correctly. Do we still want to go by topic? Colleen, Monica, how do you think we can best do this given the number of students we have?
We can just mix them up. It doesn't.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we're both happy to answer anything.
Perfect.
Anything.
Yeah. I think if we,
Okay. Yeah, we'll just do 4 breakout rooms and then just assign students to each room.
So assign automatically. Sorry, I'm not a breakout room expert. Or should I do manually, right? So that it makes sure Colleen, you, me, and Monica are each in one.
Yes.
Yeah, do manually. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. I appreciate y'all learning with me. Okay.
Okay. I had to do this the other day and I hadn't assigned breakout rooms in a long time. It was pure panic. It was like with our executive team in there.
Yeah. I definitely practice my breakout rooms before the big ones.
So I'm gonna send first. Thank you.
Things you'll learn on your internships if you're working in a remote company.
Right. Okay, I'm gonna send Colleen, Monica, and Katie first to 1, 2, and 3.
Okay.
Bye. And then is there a way I can do this quicker? Feel free and jump in, Katie. But I think
while you're doing it, I can't.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
I will keep going.
it's like all gray on mine, so I can't edit anything.
Should I close it and redo it, or I'll
Yeah, if you want me to do it, I'm happy to.
okay.
Yeah.
I think I've figured it out now. It's working. Sorry,
Okay.
everybody. I didn't know I could do it ahead of time. Okay. Got doing this. Katie, I don't see your name as a host, so I can't assign you to a room.
Okay. Here, I can join. I'll join room 4. Is that okay? Is
Yep.
that, yeah. Okay.
I'm just doing these kind of randomly, so if you get to a room and want to switch, just send me a message. Okay, I think I've gotten almost everybody. So if you see your breakout room, thank you for your patience. My dog did not like that sound. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hi, welcome. If people are in a position to share your screen or unmute, that would be great. I'd love to just go around quick in this small group and see. And Bella, feel free to hop in and out. I don't know if I can make you a co-host if you want to jump into other ones too. You're
Okay.
welcome. I don't know how to do that though. So
It's okay.
okay.
No worries.
Okay, cool. So maybe Vanessa, do you want to start with what your like career interests are and what you're looking into? And no worries if you're in a situation where you can't join or talk verbally, that's okay. I get it.
No, yeah, I can talk. I'm looking just I'm a nursing major, so anything healthcare related, inpatient or outpatient settings.
Awesome. I know there's a contact too. Have you been in contact with, shoot, what's her name? Katie had set us up with all of our nursing students. There's a woman who's really excited to help. Have you talked to her yet?
Yeah, Katie gave me her contact information. Yeah,
Okay, great.
so I'll
That's
be reaching out soon,
I guess
hopefully.
first step. That's
Yes.
going to be a really important one. And then what would you say is something you're most interested in, like learning from this session or hoping to get out of, learning about internships and interviewing skills?
I think just like the steps to take and how to start to find an internship, I think is the biggest, thing I want to take away from it, because I know there's like so many ways to go about it. So I think just like a good path to guide me on how I can start to find an internship. It's really helpful.
Were any of those resources that Colleen and Monica mentioned new or interesting, or like give you some ideas to start that process?
Yeah. And I think the first step is reaching out to, I think it was Lizette.
Yes, that's it. Thank you.
Yeah. I think reaching out to her first, I think is my first step.
Yeah.
And seeing what advice she has, or if she knows anybody.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. I see that Ashley is in a bus, so I'm not going to make her talk. Liz or Julia, do you want to share any questions or thoughts you have around the internship or interviewing process? We've also got Bella here to chime in. Bella, I'm assuming you don't have any questions right now, but if you do, you're also more than welcome to ask.
Okay, sounds good.
Liz or Julia, are either of you available to hop on and chat?
I have recently applied to an internship for accounting, and but I haven't taken a single accounting class, and so I chose to do like consulting. And I don't know if I'm good at that, but I do want to try it out. Is there any like advice that you guys would give me in a field that I have never really tried to go into
Yeah, that's
in
great.
my interview.
Yeah. And Liz, can you remind me what year you are in school again? My brain's just tired today.
I'm a first year.
Okay, right. Okay. So if you're in a, that's great timing and great to start. So actually, those consulting and accounting interviews are a little bit different than some. They might give you like a case study. So I was going to give this example later in the group. So if you hear it again, don't get bored. But for instance, when I did my Apple interview, so I interned at Apple and that's how I got my job. And I ended up working there for 5 years in their corporate finance. And my last role, I was managing our entire worldwide AirPods sales forecast. So really good work experience. And that wouldn't have happened unless I'd gotten this internship. And my hardest interview was with the woman who actually hired me. So just because they're being hard on you doesn't mean that they don't like you. I was like, oh, that was really hard. All the other ones I thought were good. And this one, I was like so nervous. I was like, oof, she like, and her name was Jessie Wang. Zhang, sorry, excuse me. And so she was like asking these like firing off questions. And one of them was, how many balloons could you fit in the room we're sitting in? So this is a classic case study question. And we weren't supposed to get those kind of questions really, but I'd kind of learned a little bit about it. So basically what they're trying to do is see how you think. And those are really common in consulting internship interviews, but they could be in any of your interviews really. And the goal, like nobody actually cares how many balloons can fit in the room. That's never going to be a problem that you're asked to solve when a patient is dying for Vanessa or like you're doing an accounting situation. But what they want to see is, can you say calm and collected and walk them through your thinking process? So basically you talk out loud how you would solve the problem. So like, okay, say the room is, for simplicity's sake, 10 by 10 by 10. And we were in this little like boxy interview room. So that wasn't totally off, right? Okay, it's this big. And then how big is the balloon? So let's say it's, takes up a foot of space, cubic space. Then it's like, what else is in the room? How, like, just basically walking through how you'd think of it and getting to an answer. So that's the hardest interview question I've ever gotten. So it's not necessarily that you will get that kind of internship interview question, but I'd say, generally speaking, thinking about the steps that she's going to talk about next on the STAR interview method and bringing out some stories is a good way to prepare for that. And then Liz, I'd love to connect with you offline sometime this week and specifically help you prepare for that. I do have some background in that, so I'm more than happy to help with you more in depth.
Thank you so much.
Bella, anything come to mind for you? I saw your eyes kind of flickering there.
I have never heard like that was a thing. I know that like I remember some of my peers were talking about like it's more of like critical thinking interviews, like they'd be in a group, but like I would be so like my eyes would be wide open if somebody asked me that question. So
Thank
that's
gosh
weird.
I'd done actually because of what Liz was talking about. Because if I hadn't gotten Apple, I was like, you know what? I really want this. I'm gonna go for it. Like sitting on the plane, they flew me out. I felt so cool, but also so freaking nervous.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, if this doesn't work out, like I'm gonna go try and do like, I had a finance background. So like, this is what I really want, but I'd heard really good things about like the programs you're applying to too. So I was like, okay, then I'll do that. So I'd already started prepping. Otherwise, how are you supposed to know that what you're supposed to do?
I mean,
And then
you.
and a few years later, I had an interview for a job that was way out of my league, but you know what? Take your shots, right? And it was at Apple. And so it was with two guys I really admired, and they gave me this really gnarly case study math problem. And I just sat there like, you know what, guys, I don't know how to do this. And I'm sure if I had just gotten out of my MBA, I would have been a pro at this problem.
Yeah.
But, they walked me through it, and it's two people I'd worked with a bunch, and the job ended up going to somebody 10 years my senior, but it was a good opportunity. So that's the thing too. Your interviews are not going to go perfect. You're going to say something and afterwards be like, shoot, I wish I'd done this different. And you're going to think of a better answer. But the more you can practice and just like go into it with some confidence, like you were picked for this program for Mission Scholars, you got into these schools, you've like overcome a lot more stuff than the person sitting across from you in that interview chair knows. And so go into it with some grounded confidence of like, you deserve a seat at that table, and they would be lucky to have you. So
Yeah,
that's my
I
thought.
agree. I like want to touch on that a little bit because even in my EA like interview, it was not as extensive as that question. I would have been like deer in the headlights, like not be able to answer that or unwilling to. But I remember it's like, it was, maybe this goes to what Liz is saying, like not really having experience in accounting, but I did not have much experience in marketing when going into this position, or even not really being super familiar with EA. But I made a personal tie. I like developed like really good hook, like why I wanted to work there. Although I didn't have experience, I didn't have a personal tie. What I said was like, I've seen my older brother infatuated with EA games, and I love to see users be so thrilled by this product, and I just want to like promote that and be a part of this company, something along those lines. But really trying to make something personal about it, because it shows that you care and also shows that you thought about it. So yeah,
I love
definitely
that.
recommend
That was the same advice every time I hired a lot of interns too. So like ask me these questions too. Like I was the person picking if an intern got hired or not when I was at Apple too. And the why Apple question is the number one thing I'd coach people to prep for. So my why Apple was, my dad is in financial management and he wanted me to get interested in stocks and bonds and everything. And I was like, I don't care, Dad. Classic, like parents are telling you to whatever it is, whether it's finance things or whatever industry they're into. And so he bought me a few shares of Apple stock, which, thank you, Dad. That was a great investment. Apple's done pretty well. And I know I'm very privileged to have that opportunity where my dad got to do that for me. But I told that story about it being in elementary school, and he was like, pick some companies you're interested in. And I was like, well, I like Apple. I like my iPod. Yes, I'm old. I know, I just turned 30. I had an iPod. And then I loved Apple, and I think he got my brother like Urban Outfitters stock. And so like it was just fun stuff like that. So I had Apple, and then I talked about how I watched the Apple keynotes even before I was an employee and really invested in the company. So doing your homework on whether it's a hospital you want to work at, like Cottage Hospital, for instance, like, wow, the new renovations, or, oh, I heard they have a new section opening up about this, or I'd love to do this kind of nursing, or an informational interview. We can talk a little bit more about that later, but really learning about the places that you want to work at before you get to that interview is really, really helpful. And it shows the person that you have a vested interest, which puts you a leg up above the person that not only has a spelling error on their resume, but also like doesn't even know what kind of games that EA makes.
Yeah. And like going off of that, I feel like going into like an interview, people like generally, I'm thinking about through a marketing lens, people truly want to be entertained. Like they want to feel like they're like involved. It's not like they're talking to a blank wall. So like be yourself, and like also like think about something personal that you can share, that you're willing to share, because people really like that. They like to be entertained. They want to feel like they're involved. They're not like an outsider looking in. So even though it's like kind of marketing, it's like also applicable to like interview processes.
Yeah, I agree. Julia, what about you? Any questions you have, or Ashley, anything you want to type into the chat and I'm happy to speak to? We really want to make this a useful session for y'all.
Yeah, no, I can speak. I am an English major. I am thinking about switching over to journalism.
Cool.
I have been getting more interested in that. I'd say for internships, I would want to start, I guess, writing for, I don't know, the Santa Barbara Independent, or just going to a journalism internship.
Yeah, I can hook you up with people from NewsHawk. I know somebody. I know a few people in New York that do journalism. I'm best friend, like one of my closest friends works for Jezebel, which is a pretty interesting publication. It's hot takes. I don't know if you've read anything from Jezebel, so it's not right for everybody, but she loves it. She writes like feminist pieces and just really passionate about that. So I definitely have some great connections in the journalism space, not only in Santa Barbara, but in other cities. Julia, where are you at school again? I can't remember which town you're in.
I'm at SBCC.
Okay, right. So would you be hoping to stay in Santa Barbara for the summer?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'd love to introduce you to my contacts at NewsHawk. I know Katie knows some people at like KUIT and some other places. So even within Mission Scholars, we've got some awesome opportunities and people to connect you with. So I'd say like freshening up your resume and then getting a few writing samples together that feel like a good representation of your work, so that you can go in there with your like head high and see. But there's also other things. It doesn't have to be a traditional writing experience. Like I know Christine is doing for Khan Academy, she'll be writing some blog pieces. So say there's a topic you're really interested in about, you could find another company, or maybe it's environmental science and you want to work for an environmental company writing some of their articles. So there's a lot of different routes to take those skills in that aren't something you'd initially think about. So but I'd be happy to connect you in the journalism space. If you want to send me an email after this call, we can get that process started.
Okay. And
Cool.
then I also had a question because I'm also kind of interested in studying forensic science or criminology.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a big leap from journalism, or it's different.
Yeah.
And I'm focusing more on journalism and the writing aspect right now. But I don't know if it's like too big of a stretch to want to like see how journalism feels first and then completely change it over to something like forensic science or something like that.
Yeah. So I have two thoughts that come to mind initially. One, I think the best thing you could do is some informational interviews with professionals in the field. So Julia, remind me which year you're in school again?
I'm a first year, I'm a freshman.
Okay, you're a freshman too. So you've definitely got time. Don't worry, your entire life is not locked at 18 years old. I've switched, I was in finance at Apple a couple years ago, and now I get to work with all of you students, and that's my full-time job. So that's a really big pivot from what I was doing before. So you definitely want to have some ideas just from like a financial security standpoint of like figuring out what a job looks like. I understand that that's really important. But I think exploring this now is the perfect time. So I would say, see if there's any programs at your school or classes you could just go sit in on, email the professor and say, hey, I'm currently an English major, but I'm really interested in this. Could I come sit in on your class? I don't think they'd say no. So like go in and check, or like, let's chat with Katie. I'm trying to think of anyone off the top of my head that I know someone maybe. So, but that's usually like, that's what I'm doing with a lot of students is like, we sit down and it's like, okay, do I know anyone? No, but I bet I know someone who knows someone. And I think that's the USC in me and my Trojan networking skills, as Adolfo, who I didn't put in my group so we didn't gang up on people, would say. But I think those are resources. And think about Kim. I don't know how much each of you have worked with Kim, but like Kim knows people and she'd fight for each of you guys to find an awesome place. And so, between me and Cassie and Katie, and then think about Chris Bruzzo and his network, like, we have so many people rooting for you. That's what I want to emphasize too, that want you guys to just crush it. So don't be afraid to reach out to us, and we can help you find people to meet with. All right. I think the other group is kind of wrapping up. Any other questions you guys want to talk about here for you all? I'm trying to work on not saying guys. Ashley, any questions from the bus you want me to answer before we go back to the larger group? Awesome. Ashley said, Bella, she's really interested in your experience in finance and marketing, even though she hasn't had much experience with it. So Ashley, maybe you could send a message to Bella and you could talk a little bit more about her experience and see if that'd be something you'd be interested in the future. But I'd say, don't limit yourself, try different things, explore. Internships are the perfect time to do that.
That's awesome. Yeah, Ashley, reach out to me. We can talk like about anything. I don't really know still what I want to do, so figuring it out is good.
Okay, anybody know what the term broadcast means when I click that on the breakout rooms? Has anyone done that in Zoom?
No, broadcast.
Wish me luck, I'm gonna try it.
Okay.
Okay, I think that's sent to everybody. Did you guys see a message come up?
Yeah.
I don't want to close all the rooms. I wonder if there's a way. Thank you for bearing with me. This is very different than.
Yeah, Zoom can be complicated. I feel like closing out all the rooms, doesn't that boot everybody back to the same room or no?
But isn't that usually you can do like a time where it like goes like a minute, like you have 1 minute to kind of wrap up? Sorry, team, you're in the feel free to ask Bella questions while I
Yeah, ask me questions.
I want to close all of them. This is embarrassing. I'm sorry, guys. All just figuring it out as we go, right?
That's how we get there.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna try and join the other rooms. Bella, I'm gonna leave you in this one and see
Okay.
how we're doing. But yeah, Vanessa, if you have any other questions or either of you, I'll be back hopefully.
Cool.
Hi, Paige.
Hi. I just wanted to check in and see how it's going over here.
It's good. We got through the business portion of the evening. A lot of good questions and trying to get kind of narrow in on like things like Adolfo was asking around like for like business admin, like what kind of like roles would you search for or start to think about?
Cool.
Talked a little bit about like if there's, I don't know if you've like seen this before, like where there's so many things on a job application or like on a job posting where it's like, do I have to match up to all the skills? And it's generally no. So kind of talk through that. And then we were talking about what we were doing this weekend.
Oh, fun. Yeah, send it to me, Adolfo. If there's one where you're like, I don't know. And then Brandon, are you still interested in maybe doing that like the scholarship now that you'd be eligible, right, this summer for that grant? That might be worth looking into. Didn't we work on that last year? But you weren't eligible yet?
For which one? Is that for like the intern one or
the internship grant where you could get money to do an unpaid internship, but you had to be a sophomore?
Yes, I forgot all about that. I
We
might
should
have to
look
check
into
that
it.
again. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Seems great.
Okay. All right. I'm going to close the rooms, but I will see you all if I do this right. Yay. Sorry. That's probably not the most professional way to say that, but I am new to this. So thank you all for bearing with me. Monica, how did it go in your room? That's the one I didn't get to jump in.
Yeah, it was good. We have people in kind of different stages of looking for internships. Some have some have fellowships, some are working, but are kind of interested in like shadowing when they come back home for different organizations. So as mentioning that your email template could be really good for something like that too, like not just an internship specifically, but just like, hey, I'm really interested in your company and like, do you have any projects I can support or like volunteer opportunities? Because you never know what's going on behind the scenes.
Really?
And you don't know until you ask. So my suggestion is just always ask and see what they say.
Yeah. Well, thanks for the lovely segue. Katie, did things go well over in your room as well?
Yes, we had lots to talk about as always, but one of the students mentioned, I'm going to use a quote. I think they said, I wasn't really thinking that much about internships before, but now I'm really motivated to start thinking about it. So and I think that sums up, that's the point. That's the objective of tonight's workshop is we want to just get you excited and inspired about the opportunities and also provide you with resources for next steps. So yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I totally agree with Katie. It's the number one way to help you find a job. And you guys have invested so much time, energy, and money into your education, right? Like you've put this big commitment in and it's like, okay, you think about the way you did college apps with Mission Scholars, right? The essays, like all of the work that you put into getting into school, like hopefully it's not that much of as a grind, although Christian might attest it sometimes is more of a grind, maybe even. But you will be putting in some of that effort to find this awesome job, but you're not doing it alone. You still have us to help you and support you through the process. So speaking of emails, I know some of you already seen this, so I'll go through it quickly now, but if you have questions, let's follow up after. But And then, so we'll have a little bit more content. And then once we finish this content, we'll have another opportunity to ask questions, and we can pop into breakout rooms if anyone needs one-on-one assistance. Feel free to message either maybe Katie, since I'm presenting, and message Katie if you want to talk with somebody a little bit more after. And if it doesn't work tonight, we can also set up another time with me, or Colleen or Monica have graciously offered their time as well. So we're excited to work with you. So, okay, an email draft. So for those of you who have not seen this is really important. What do I say when my mentor or my professor says I should reach out to somebody, but I don't know what to do? It's like, oh, hi, talk to me. No, you're going to use this awesome template, which we've put together. And there's a slide here that says like what to do. And then on the next slide, there's some more details, and we'll send it out in an email. Make it sound like you, not like Paige, but basically saying, hi, this is who I am. This is what I'm interested in from you. Would you be willing to meet? Another key portion of it is basically saying something about you. Make it more interesting than the rest of their emails in their inbox. So why don't we jump into the example? Well, we'll go through the structure and then I'll show you the example. So introduce yourself. So you've done this a ton, right? It's your elevator pitch. What's your name? Where do you go to school? What's your major? Maybe say your hometown. And then the company, person, position that you're interested in. So we had one student that's an English major, but maybe interested in criminology and forensic science. So if she emails the professor, for instance, of one of the classes she wants to sit in on, it's like, hi, this is who I am. I'm from Santa Barbara. I'm an English major, but I'm really interested in this field. And this is why. Maybe say something about it. Would it be okay for me to come sit in on your class? I'm not enrolled, but I just want to learn if this is a class I'd be interested in taking next semester. If it's for a job or an internship, have a sentence about why you think you would be a good fit for the roller company. So let's say we use maybe a Bella example of, she talked about in her interview, why EA? Why does she want to go to EA? So she told them, she didn't have a bunch of experience with gaming previously. She didn't know like every video game, or didn't think she was going to go into video games, but she gave the example of watching her brother and how he was interested in them, and she wants to be able to do that. For me at Apple, in my interview, when I got the internship, what I talked about is how I was an Apple nerd even before I started interviewing at the company, and would watch the keynotes, and that I had one Apple share when I was in elementary school, which, thank you to my parents, that was a great investment moving forward. I'm very lucky to have had that. But like my dad was like trying to get me interested in stocks and bonds. And I'm an elementary school kid who was like, this is really boring. I don't care. But he was like, how do I get her interested in this? So he bought me a couple shares of Apple. He bought my brother Urban Outfitters. I think I won that versus my brother as far as stock prices and things go later, which is just, this is all funny, fun stuff. But what's something interesting that you can tell them about in this interview that's like, okay, I want to talk to this person. They sound cool. And then thank them for their time. This is not a mandatory part of their job. They don't have to come and talk to you. They've got other stuff going on. Maybe they've got kids at home to feed. Like, make it clear that you really would appreciate them spending time with you. So next slide, this is an example. So I won't read the whole thing because that's very boring and you already know about me, but this is something you can copy paste. You can either screenshot it, or I'll see if I can copy it into the chat after this. I don't think I can do that while sharing my screen, but then I'll also send it in a follow-up email. But make sure, if you are going to use this, highlight and bold the things that you change each time, so you don't accidentally say, I'm interested in an interview at Deloitte, but I'm applying to PwC. So if you are going to use this template, save it in a Word document or a Google Drive or an email draft, but just double check that you're not accidentally sending the wrong thing to the wrong person. But if you look at this, it's got a bit about, who I am, what I'm interested in. So I used Apple, where I am in school, what I'm studying in, what I want to do. And each of you, it'll be a little different. Say Larry in the engineering side of things. He might give a little bit more technical background of like certain projects or clubs that he's working in that like for me wouldn't be applicable. Or if you're interning at Salvation Army and going into social work, maybe it's a heartfelt story about like what called you to do this type of work. It doesn't have to be long. It can just be a little sentence of something that's like, oh, wow, this person's really interested. I want to get to know them more. So when you're thinking about the like tangible things, like what can I do to get a job? Sending a cold email like this, or, asking Katie or I who to reach out to, and then typing an email like this. Like I worked with a Nook who's a sophomore in your guys' cohort. We did 2 emails like that, one to Zoe Hink, who runs Women in STEM in Santa Barbara, and then another to a friend of mine from college who also goes to Santa Cruz and was in the PhD program there. And both of them are now going to help her try and find jobs. So she's just expanded her network just by writing a little email like this. She took a similar template, and now she's got 2 amazing women behind her helping her find really cool career opportunities. So don't forget that people want to help you. Yes, people are busy. You might have to respond 2 or 3 times, and some people are just going to flat out ignore your LinkedIn requests. And like, that doesn't have anything to do with whether or not you're a good person. It just means like, maybe they're not checking their LinkedIn this month, but it doesn't mean you should stop trying and stop reaching out. So that's my email template and spiel about emails. Any questions about that before we go into a little bit of interview skills? Okay, I'll hand it off to Colleen and Monica.
Yeah, super quickly, actually, if you don't mind going back, I just wanted to mention a part in the email template. I think it's really important because like as a recruiter, I get some of these messages and some are just like, hi, my name is whatever, I'm graduating and like box looks really cool. Like, do you have internships? And I'm just like, no, I don't have anything for you. But if you're like, my name is X, I'm super interested in box. I'm going to be graduating in a year with my software engineering degree, and like I use Box at school and I just think it's the coolest product and I would like really love to be a part of it. I'm like, oh, okay, they like actually like it. Or like I found this position, I think I'd be really good because I studied X, X thing in Z, or did this project in school, whatever. It's like, oh, they like actually care. So don't forget to add those kind of the second part of the email structure on showing the research or why you think you're a good fit. Because like honestly, as a recruiter, I'm not going to respond to you unless you have like a little bit more, a little more interest, a little more research done.
I think that's really important. Thanks for clarifying that, Monica.
Yeah.
Cool.
So yeah, I can kick off the next section then. Okay, so you applied, getting an interview. How do you prepare? We'll go over some questions that are commonly asked, some ways to kind of have, maybe it's you're faking the cool confidence, but I always say have a cool confidence when you interview, even if it's totally fake. So ways to get that. First is always practice, something as simple as your elevator pitch. Just practice out loud with a friend so someone can hear you saying it. I know for me, I'd practice a lot in my head and be like, yeah, it sounds great. And then I'd go and, practice my mom or a friend and they'd be like, what does that mean? Or like, what are you trying to say? And I'm like, oh my gosh, totally not like what was in my head. So I think getting it out is a good way to get feedback. And even if it's recording yourself, I feel like a lot comes out of that. And you're like, oh, I did not know I sounded like that, or I meant to phrase this in a different way. So it can kind of give you a lot of feedback. Second is definitely what I was mentioning earlier, like research the company. Recruiters, interviewers know when, you're just kind of going through an interview and you don't really know what the company is. It's kind of just like another interview, like they feel that. So make sure you research, make sure you know what the mission is, know what the team is doing that, you want to be a part of and how you can really connect to that team. A lot of the times in like interview prep, you'll get a name of who you're going to be meeting with. So look them up on LinkedIn, see how long they've been at the company, ask them questions around that. That could be a good question to ask. Actually, the end of your interview is, why have you been here for a year or 2 years? What do you love about the company? What do you love about the team? I see you were at Meta before this. Why did you make the transition to this company? There's a ton of questions you can get out of that. And
Monica,
again, it
can I
shows.
interrupt you for 1 second and ask about that? I got a really good question from a student asking, hey, I know this person's going to interview me. I found them on LinkedIn. Should I message them ahead of my interview? My response to that was I didn't think that was appropriate, but I'm curious, Colleen, Monica, just while we're on this specific topic of researching who's going to interview you, how do you two feel about that?
For me, I wouldn't do it before, because if something weird happens in the interview, it's kind of just like awkward. I don't know. I'd probably message them after. If it's like you had your interview, message them after. It's like, super great meeting you, whatever it is. But that's kind of my opinion, Colleen.
Yeah, I would say in a circumstance before would be more if like maybe you had a further connection with them and you're like, hey, I'm interviewing for this company and I just want to learn a little bit more about it before. But I think if it's someone that you don't know at all, I would wait and I would do it after and do it in a way of like kind of like a best practice is sending a thank you after your interview and just saying like, again, a personalized thing of like, thank you for your time. I really enjoyed our conversation about X, Y, and Z, and it got me really excited, So I would kind of hold on it too.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
I'm glad I guided them in a way you two agree with. Thanks for letting me interrupt.
Yeah. Last thing on this slide, and I think something that a lot of recruiters and hiring managers look for in like early career and intern interviews is someone that is just willing to learn and grow, and has kind of that, call it like grit and growth mindsets, like determination, basically. And so any way you can demonstrate that through an interview is going to be great, whether it's talking about, again, like a book you read or like any extracurriculars you're in. That's just going to set you apart. And I think interviewers will recognize that. And it kind of like is really transferable into a workplace, because you're not going to know everything. You're going to have to learn. You're going to have to adapt. You're going to have to change. So if you can kind of show that you have that mindset and you're open to change and that you want to learn, I think that's a huge plus to showcase through the interview.
Colleen, I know you've moved around companies. Do you have a story you go to demonstrate that? Like, or Monica, like what's your grit or story, just like briefly, just so the students have a tangible example of what that means?
Yeah, I was trying to think of like something that would apply for you all. I think even like showing like, hey, like I've shown determination by getting these 5 scholarships and going out and, investing in like this special, if there's any like leadership program that you're in. I think even like those, just really even where you are now and like all of you, like you've done a lot of impressive things to get where you are today. So I wouldn't even discount like those pieces. And then like the stuff on top of that is great. I think like always a good, and we can get into details in this when we talk about practicing, but to have a few of those like scenario stories in your back pocket when you go into an interview. So like an example of this is like when you've been put in a situation where you didn't know it or you had to learn something new, it's like a great story to have lined up. Like, I was, put into, like for me personally, like I was put into a meeting where they were talking about Excel. I'm going to make this up on the top of my head, like Excel spreadsheets. And I've never used that before. And like, what did I do to figure it out? It's like, you can think of those scenarios and that will show that you've like navigated tough things, that you can think on your feet, and you have grit. So.
Yeah, exactly. Even like looking for jobs and internships, like it's a lot. It's a lot of searching, like practicing, talking about that. We can actually go to the next slide because I think it's relevant. I think Colleen added it, but like for the STAR method, I think you probably heard about that before. But like phrasing even an intern search, I was kind of thinking around like a group project, like taking any experience from school that you have is super great too. So STAR method, situation, task, action, result is a really great way to frame responses to questions around like when is the time you took initiative or a leadership role? And it's like, oh, I don't know. I haven't worked. I'm just like, I go to school, maybe I haven't worked like in a group setting kind of thing. Pulling from, I think school projects is great. It's definitely what I did. So something I was thinking of for a STAR method and kind of explaining to projects, like in response to the question, like, where was the time you took initiative or showed leadership? It'd be like, I had this project in school on how, I'm making this up, frogs position in the ecosystem. Okay, that's the situation. The task was my group, we had a group project. We had to present at the end of the month our findings on XYZ. I completed this task by taking a leadership role and starting to delegate different parts of the project and checking in to make sure that our slides were in on time. As a result, we presented a great presentation. Everyone had their slides in on time. The information was accurate, and we got an A on the project, like something like that, whatever your project was. But it's a really great method to frame your answers in, and don't feel like you have to be like, my situation was this, my task was this, my action was this, my result is this, like kind of just make it flow more into a paragraph form. And I think you do that just by practicing. So definitely write these things down. I think one of the questions I saw earlier was, how do you frame your responses into a conversational tone versus just like super scripted? And I think it is good to start like writing it down, even writing situation, task, action, result, but then practicing a few times to yourself and out loud, and to the point where it becomes conversational and you have these as kind of ammo to a lot of questions. Like group thinking, group project example can be the answer to a lot of questions that you'll get in an interview. So you can use that and kind of mold it to whatever they're asking. Anything else on that, Colleen?
No, I think that's great. And yeah, I think again, it's like, to go back to the point around not being scripted, is I was just trying to, like, and when I prep people before, is like you said, is like pick 4 or 5 different like stories that might mold into some of these questions, because then those specific examples, because you might be in an interview and be like, I know I've worked on a team project in school, but shoot, like, which one was it? What happened? And you're kind of nervous. So it's really good just to have, like, even if it's not like super detailed, it's really good to think about like to have those arsenal of examples. And again, like a way to like get you there and to start thinking about it is through the STAR method.
Yeah. And also, I guess just another tip on that is, don't feel like you have to like fill all the silence. Like, it's okay to be like, oh, let me think about that for a second, as long as it's not like silence for a minute, but trying to collect yourself a little and be like, okay, I know this scenario, like, how can I apply it to this? And then go into your answer. I think is always, a good way. You don't have to fill the silence, basically.
I kind of like having a pen and paper with me too. I don't think it's bad if you think that way and that's how you do well in class. Like, if you want to have, I know I had a pen and paper, and it can also, like, as they're saying something or asking a question, you can write down keywords as you think of it. I know for me, sometimes it's like, oh, I have the perfect thing off the top of my head. And then 5 seconds later, I'm like, shoot, I already forgot it. So it's not a bad idea to have that, along with a copy of your resume or whatever you have, whether that's a professional folder or something like that, or it can just be a notebook, your class notebook. Bring it in with you in case you have something you want to write down.
Yep.
Yeah, I could say too, even if you're doing, for instance, a virtual interview, and like, this is a direct example for me, is I kept a paper right next to me with just not even like writing too many notes, because you don't want to always look like you're looking at something. But if you get a little bit stuck, just like key reminders of things. And so if you're feeling a little bit stuck, you can like quickly glance at it and be like, oh yeah, I remember, that's what I was going to say. So I also wouldn't hesitate to use some of those like cheat sheet type things as well too.
Yeah, I definitely did that too in my most recent interviews. And I was even like, oh, I have my notepad here. I'm taking some notes, so they know you're not just like looking down or to the side.
Or like checking your phone or whatever. Like, oh, I'm paying attention to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, Monica, that's a good point too, to say like if you are glancing to the side, like kind of give a reason why too.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I know we've got about 10 minutes left in our scheduled time. We can stay a little bit later if people have more questions. Do we want to walk through some of these interview practice questions or head to what's next? Or are these more for reference
These
later?
are kind of just like general questions. Maybe if anyone has like a specific one that they've had trouble answering, drop it in the chat or come off mute. I guess maybe one, excuse me, that stands out to me is the what's your greatest weakness one? Because I know when I was like looking for internships, I was like, my weakness is I work too much and I'm just a workaholic. And it's like, no, that's not a good answer. And it is a little bit hard when you haven't been working in like kind of a corporate setting, but usually my go-to is like to think of a couple things that you can improve. Everyone can improve on things. It's like I really want to work on my presentation skills. Or I think I'm really good at organizing my group projects, but I really want to work on my research skills, whatever it is. Like just make sure you have something that isn't just I work too much.
Katie, were you going to say something or more on the next slide? I didn't know if it cut you off.
No, yeah, I'm happy to do the next slide, and then we can send out that list of questions as resources. We'll be following up with a bunch of these resources. Okay, so what's next? Now that we got all this awesome information, I know it's inspiring some of you to start reaching out to people. One of my thoughts too that came up in our small group is if you need a look over of an email that isn't necessarily like a job email outreach, but maybe an informational interview or wanting to connect with someone that you previously connected with and keeping those connections fresh, you can always send those to us and we're happy to look them over. Sometimes that gives you a little more confidence before you click send. But just know like the power of the informational interview of maybe this summer, what we talked about in our small group, you're not in a traditional internship, you're working at Target or a restaurant or whatever, but then you supplement that experience with shadowing someone in your field or working on a project. So there's lots of ways to kind of get creative so that you're just doing something that excites you and that is in line with the career that you want to step into. Okay, so going back to what's next, connect with your coach to talk about like where you're at and really start thinking about your summer. I know it's only day 1 of March, but knowing how fast time flies, summer is just around the corner. So just give it a little bit of like reflection on what you want, where you're at, where you want to go, and like what you need help in. Maybe it's connections or reaching out or getting your resume freshened up. Email Paige. You all have Paige's email. If you want to tap into some of the Mission Scholars Network that we mentioned for local summer internships, or even just like picking our brains for connections. If you're confused about, I'm a business major, what kind of internships should I be looking for or anything like that? That is literally our jobs. We're here to help you. So please reach out for that. We are going to challenge you because hopefully we're leaving this workshop feeling inspired and motivated. And they say when you're in that headspace, that's when you should take an action before leaving and doing something else, because you lose that sense of motivation. So while you're in the headspace, think about people that you might want to draft an email to, 3 outreach emails. Maybe that's, a professor or a peer that maybe had an internship that you want to learn more about, or maybe it's an actual job, like you're reaching out to a company, whatever that looks like. But brainstorm as I'm still talking, like at least 3 people you could reach out to. And then I hope before the summer, so this quarter, this semester, all of you visit your career center on campus and ask about summer internships. Often they have lists of internships or opportunities. I know students have found even scholarship opportunities by visiting the career center as well. I wish I'd utilized that more at my time at college. So we basically created the LIT program on what we wished we had known. So that's one of your action items, is to visit that center and maybe you make some connections and meet some friends that way.
Thanks.
Any questions on this? Oh, go ahead, Paige.
No, I was just saying thanks. Yeah, I wanted to ask the same thing and just really reemphasize, like, it's a core tenet of my job now, working with mission scholars. Like, I love doing this. You can ask, Larry or Adolfo or Christian, who's getting a text from me every week saying like, hey, how's it going? Like, what can we do to strategize? Like, I want you guys to find, or you all to find amazing jobs. And so we've gotten our students, like, we created an internship like at Salvation Army for one of our students. Like, that wasn't really a thing, but she got that. So, my mentee Vet, we got her 2 jobs. She worked at Camp Canine and at the vet hospital, and she wants to go into veterinary stuff. Like, we have good medical connections. So we're really trying to build this network, and it takes you guys, you all engaging with us too. Like, you be the role models for the future students coming through this program. Like, help us develop this into a program where LIT takes you to these amazing job opportunities. And then you can go back to your friends or your cousins or your siblings and be like, hey, this is how you get a really cool internship. Like, watch, I know how to do this, and I'm going to show you how to do it too. So I just want you all to feel empowered and not like, oh, I don't know how to do this. If that is how you're feeling, that's okay. Nobody taught you how to do this. Nobody was like, oh, in geometry class in 9th grade, I learned how to get an internship. Like, this is new information. It's okay not to know what to do, but you have amazing resources that a lot of other students don't have to help you find something great. So that's kind of goes back on you to find the time. I know school's busy and you have a ton on your plate, but find the time to carve out just little chunks of time at a time to find these really amazing opportunities, and it will lead to something great. Like, you'll be really surprised to see what you can find if you never know that one coffee meeting can turn into a career path. I'm going to tell one quick story to end the call, but I brag about him a lot. My husband, who's Larry's mentor, and I think they're actually grabbing dinner tonight. The reason he got his job at Apple, and he just spent 10 years at Apple, he was an engineering student at USC, and he was going through, yes, we're old, a binder of research opportunities, and he happened to find one that was on audio in engineering, and he had a research scholarship. So he emailed him and was like, hey, I want a job. Could I work with you? I'll get paid for free. You don't even have to pay me. And so he went and did research with a guy named Tom, who founded a company called THX, and then brought Chris with him to Apple as his intern. And that was just off of a cold email about like a research scholarship. And now he's been there for 10 years and manages a team of 10 engineers at Apple. So like, those little connections that you think are like, meh, I'll see, maybe I'll stop by, they can lead to really big things. So stop by our career center, reach out to me, email a few people, write down in your notebook 3 people you're going to email this week. Like, I know it sounds ridiculous, but it really could make a huge difference. So we're excited for you. Thank you for taking the time on a Wednesday night to come listen. We're going to post this on YouTube, share it with your friends, share it with your other Mission Scholars students. And if you need more resources and have more questions, this is just a starting point. It's not the end.
And one more note before you sign off. Yeah, the next LIT workshop will be on April 4th at 5:30 p.m. Equally important, if not more important, to all the internship and job stuff and professional development is also just taking care of ourselves and mental health. And so we have this awesome licensed therapist. Some of you maybe did the 4-week course last summer on mindfulness. She's just doing a workshop for like an hour and a half. I think it's 5:30 to 7 p.m. on Zoom, just to talk about how we deal with stress in our lives, and learn some strategies for more mindfulness. And I was lucky enough, I got to do her 4-week workshop over the summer and gained so much benefit from it, as I know many of the students did. So I really encourage you, write it in your calendars right now. Hopefully we get a really great turnout. It will be worth your time. Thank you to Colleen and Monica and Paige for organizing this awesome, incredibly useful workshop tonight. And I hope you all leave feeling inspired to take some action to really think about your professional goals and dreams, and know that we're here for you, support you every step of the way.
All right. And we'll stay a few minutes after if anybody wants to touch base, but thank you all for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Fun.
Thanks.
So fun seeing everyone's faces.
All right. Adolfo, I know you want to chat. I'll try. I've got a couple minutes I can chat with after. Maybe we'll close up. I'm going to stop recording.